All right, everybody. Good evening. Get started with the work session here. Tonight we have elections. So go ahead and kick that over to you guys and then we'll go over the agenda.
Thanks, Crystal. I'm a little. How do we want to do this, people? We'll just open it up for discussion. Probably need a motion from somebody to elect somebody, or a nomination, a motion to nominate someone. Any takers? Do we have just John online? Is Milt?
Mill is not.
Oh, no Milt tonight. Okay. So this is
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Danley.
I make a motion that you, Mr. Bob Schaefer, extraordinaire, be nominated to be the Planning and Zoning Commission Chair for the year 2022 into 2023.
I second that.
Okay, we've got a motion to elect myself as chair, a motion in a second. I guess you do one at a time. Do we do chair and then co-chair? Okay. Any discussion on the matter?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Danley.
I think you'll do a fantastic job. That's why you're getting nominated. Go you.
Okay. Any other discussion? Very good. I suppose if I'm nominated, I probably can't vote, huh? Doesn't matter.
You can vote.
Celine's in like, I'm about to have a baby mode. She's just like, whatever, whatever you want. Okay, I got a motion to elect myself as chair for the next term. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Blanchard,
Absent.
Gillespie, absent. Finfrock, aye. Danley,
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, great. Thanks. Well, thank you all too. I appreciate the nomination and the vote of support.
I'll screw up.
I will rule with an iron fist. Okay, we got that one done. So we probably need to move on to electing a co-chair for this year. Do I have any motion on that topic?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Squires.
I would nominate Commissioner Danley to be vice chair for the next term.
Do I have a second?
Second from John Mooney.
I got a motion from Commissioner Squires and a second from Commissioner Mooney to elect Mr. Chris Danley as co-chair for next year. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Squires.
Commissioner Danley has a wealth of experience and former experience as a planning and zoning commissioner, and seems like a great choice.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Commissioner Stead, any thoughts on the matter?
Did I miss?
No?
anything?
Nope. No. Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, let's, we have a motion to elect Chris Danley as co-chair for next year. Motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Finfrock, Danley,
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay. All right. Very good. Congrats to Commissioner Danley as co-chair. I think that's it for our elections.
Very, very formal. Yes. Congratulations, everybody. Yes. Okay, so let's go through the agenda tonight. We have to start off with quite a few meeting minutes to accept, so just making sure we go through those. Then first up, we've got the capital improvement plans. We will be hearing those as we received a letter from a neighborhood association. Just a reminder that any neighborhood associations can speak on this one tonight. So just keep an eye out for that. We do have one person from the public signed up for that. The second item is a PUD for 11 multifamily units on USTIC. We will be hearing that as well, as there's some neighborhood opposition, though nobody signed up in advance for that one. Third PUD on Boise Ave, we received late in the afternoon a request for deferral to the April 4th hearing. So we'll put that forward as deferral. Number 4 is a variance on Gossamer to encroach in the rear yard setback. Again, we have neighborhood opposition on that, so we will be hearing it, though nobody has signed up in advance. Number 5, another variance to encroach the side yard setback. Again, recommending approval, but neighborhood opposition. We have one person signed up in advance for this one. Number 6 is the one we can try for consent. It's a CUP for an accessory dwelling unit to be located in front of the primary residence. And we're recommending approval. And then number 7, to wrap us up, is another request for deferral to March 7th by the applicant. So got to hear a lot, but hopefully it'll be not too long. Questions on any of it?
Number 8 too, right?
Oh, that one got pushed off.
Victory.
Sorry. And then we've got finally a PUD and rezone on Victory, looking for 301 family and multifamily units. We did receive neighborhood opposition, even though we're recommending approval. So we will be hearing that, though nobody signed up in advance.
Okay. So it looks like maybe number 6, we can try for consent maybe,
Correct.
but the rest we're probably hearing. Okay.
Yeah, 1 consent, 2 deferrals, and then
Okay.
the rest will be hearing. So we got about, oh, yep.
Are there any questions before I jump into something else?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Mooney.
Oh, yeah, Commissioner Mooney, go ahead.
I need to recuse myself from item 1. I was involved in the discussions with my neighborhood association. I serve as the president of the Barber Valley, and they've got questions about the capital improvement plans, and it's related to the Parks and Recs portion of it.
Okay.
So I'll be recusing from that. And then I have a question for staff, maybe on number 6, if we defer that, or I mean, if we put it on consent. Is there work on our code to talk about owner occupied requirements for ADUs? I've got a vested interest in this. I built an ADU for my parents, and when they're gone, it seems like that restriction for immediate family or immediate family living in one or the other seems a little onerous. Has that been discussed at all?
As of now, there's no plans for that restriction to be removed. That said, who knows what will come down the line with the rewrite next year.
Commissioners, the only thing I wanted to revisit were the nominations for the elections. I guess awkwardly pointing out, I was under the impression that Meredith was going to be co-chair for this term. I figured that was the case. So it's, I guess, talk amongst yourselves. It should be a consensus from all of you, but obviously Bob, just because of his working relationship with a lot of different projects in the area, the co-chair will need to chair probably more than what Bob did as co-chair. And so if Commissioner Danley, if you do want to continue to co-chair, we will need to make sure we go through some training rather than if Meredith was chair or co-chair, we wouldn't have to do as much of that. So I just want to make sure that's clear. We can always vote again if you'd like or not, but we just need to make sure we clear that up.
Yeah, sure thing. I mean, I think if we wanted to sleep on it until next week, maybe we can do that. Or do we need to have the elections today and have it finalized today?
It would be ideal to have both chair and co-chair figured
So
out
that's settled. Okay.
because we'll have to update the agendas and templates and things
Yeah, I
like
got
that.
you. I got you. Okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, I guess just for everybody's background, there was some discussion because I do have to recuse on a fairly regular basis, that making sure that the co-chair is comfortable, running the meeting and is comfortable with the process of running the meeting. So that was the discussion with Meredith and myself previously. So just those 2 cents for everybody. Any other thoughts? How's everybody feeling?
Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Ashley.
I guess that would have been helpful for all the commissioners to know. I've been through many board elections and it's never been decided ahead of time.
Sure.
I
No, I
assume-
don't think it was either. I think it was just a matter of just thinking through how the meetings would run and process and
Sure.
making sure everybody's comfortable with how to run the meeting. Now, I mean, Commissioner Danley is more than capable of running the meeting. It's just a matter of understanding that, I do have to recuse on a fairly regular basis.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please.
I don't have a problem with Commissioner Stead staying as co-chair. I also don't have a problem moving forward, in that role. But I think given the dynamics at play, given your schedule and the things that you mentioned, and certainly the backlog of applications that we're going to have, it's going to be quite a busy season. And I know we're already short-staffed as it is. And so I think certainly also as a favor to staff, given their limited time, I think it's probably appropriate to step back and let Meredith Stead continue as co-chair.
What's that?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stead?
that's really thoughtful to think of the staff that way.
Absolutely.
For me, it came up because I rarely miss a meeting, and so therefore could easily step in as the co-chair, but I'm more than happy. This was not my ask or decision, so I'm sorry that it's feeling super awkward and I didn't mean to be in the middle of all this. So I'm happy with whatever the commission decides.
Okay. Well, I appreciate, Chris, I appreciate your thoughts about staff too. I hadn't considered that component, that we do have sort of some staff influx at the moment. So that's certainly a valuable insight, I think, too. So at this point, we probably do we want to reevaluate our vote?
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
commissioners, I just want to apologize again. Blame it on pregnancy brain or something, but just wanted to make sure it was clear. So however you want to proceed tonight, it's up to you all.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Danley.
I hereby resign my very brief stint as co-chair and hereby nominate Commissioner Stead to be co-chair for Boise P&Z for the next term.
Okay, very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I got a motion and a second to re-elect former chair Stead as co-chair Stead. Any more discussion on the matter? Okay, very good. Appreciate everybody's patience here. We'll go ahead and call the roll, please.
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Pinfrock,
Aye.
Stanley,
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Great, and that officially brings us right to 6 o'clock. So if we're all ready, we can get started.
Dive right in.
Let's-
Okay.
Let's do it. Right, good evening and welcome to the Boise City Planning and Zoning Commission public hearing. A few things to start out with for tonight's proceedings. Everyone from the public entering the hearing virtually has been automatically muted and cannot speak. As the item you're interested in comes up for discussion, you'll be called upon and unmuted. There's a chat function in Zoom. This is not part of the record and should only be used if technical difficulties arise. Our procedures for public hearing begin with a presentation from the planning team, then we'll go to the applicant and then the representative of the Registered Neighborhood Association, followed by questions from the commission. After that, we proceed to public testimony, starting with those who are in person, then those who signed up on the sign-up sheets in advance, and then anyone else who raises their hand virtually. If you are attending through your telephone, you can type *9 to raise your hand. Each member of the public is allowed up to 3 minutes for testimony. We are strict with this time as it is limited in code. Finally, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for rebuttal, after which the hearing will be closed and the commission will deliberate and render a decision. Mr. Chair, You have the floor.
Thank you, Crystal. Good evening. We are citizen volunteers appointed by the mayor and approved by the city council. We make final decisions on conditional use permits, variances, and appeals, and recommendations to the city council on subdivisions, rezones, annexations, and code or comprehensive plan amendments. Any decision made tonight may be appealed to the city council, provided that the appeal is filed within 10 days of this hearing. In order to file an appeal, you must have given written or oral testimony at tonight's meeting. So that's why it's important to give your name and address when you testify tonight. We utilize a consent agenda. This means that if the applicant agrees with the staff report and if there is no public opposition, the item will be placed on the consent agenda. All items that are placed on the consent agenda are approved with one motion without further public comment. For items not on the consent agenda, we will hold a full public hearing in the order just detailed a few minutes ago with staff, applicant, neighborhood association, and then the public testimony. Thank you all for virtually attending tonight. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Let me say it again. May want to repeat that.
Can we get the roll, please?
Stead,
Here.
Schaefer,
Here.
Squires,
Here.
Blanchard, still absent. Moore.
Here.
Gillespie, still absent. Finfrock. Here. Danley,
Here.
Mooney.
Here.
7 present, 2 absent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll start off this evening here. We've got, without objection, I'll go ahead and place the minutes from November 15th, December 6th, December 13th, January 3rd, and January 10th on the consent agenda. In addition to that, I think we have only one item tonight that's eligible for consent. And that is item number 6 on our agenda, CUP 21-69, Fine Line Studio at 7829 West Swift Lane. Is the applicant here this evening? Got a hand up, Mr. Wagner online. Just 1 second. Mr. Wagner will unmute here.
Yes, hello.
Hi there, Mr. Wagner. Are you in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report?
Yes, we are.
Okay, excellent. I apologize. Let me step back real quick too. This is a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling located in front of a primary residence on 0.87 acres in an R1C zone. So again, just for the record, Mr. Wagner, you are in agreement with the terms and conditions of the staff report.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And is there anyone in attendance this evening that's here to testify in opposition to this project? Okay, see no hands up and no one in person. So we'll go ahead and place item number 6 on the consent agenda. I think that does it for consent. Can I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stead.
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes from November 15th, December 6th, December 13th, January 3rd, January 10th, as well as item number 6, CUP 21-69.
Second.
Very good. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Very good. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Finfrock,
Aye.
Danley,
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, thank you all. And then with that, we have a couple of deferrals this evening. The first one, deferral requests. First one is item number 3. That's PUD 21-55 Cushing Terrell at 2189 West Boise Avenue. Is the applicant present? And we understand you would like to defer this item to April 4th, 2022. Is that correct? Excellent. And is there anyone here this evening that wishes to testify in opposition to this project, and you cannot attend the meeting on April 4th. Very good. Let the record show no hands were raised and no one in person. Can I hear a motion, please?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stead.
I move that we defer item number 3, PUD 21-55 to April 4th.
Second.
Got a motion to defer and a second. Any more discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Finfrock. Aye. Danley,
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. And one more deferral request, that is item number 7, CAR 21-42, Sawtooth Development at 8710 South Pleasant Valley. This is an annexation request. And they're requesting deferral to March 7th. Is the applicant present this evening? Okay, not present. Is there anyone in attendance this evening that would like to testify in opposition to this item? Okay, no takers on either. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Stead.
I move to defer item number 7, CAR 21-42 to March 7th.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to defer. Any more discussion? Very good. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Finfrock. Aye. Danley,
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay. All right. I think that does it for deferrals. We'll go ahead and return to the front of our agenda with item number 1, which is CPA 21-6, the City of Boise Capital Improvement Plans. Comprehensive Plan Text Amendment. And I think we're here from staff.
Chair,
Thank you, Commissioner.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, one second. Commissioner Mooney.
Mr. Chair, I need to recuse from this, so just a reminder.
Yes, thank you for that. Let the record show that Commissioner Mooney has recused himself from this item. Okay, staff. Floor is
Yes, name's Travis Black. I work in the budget office. I presented the key elements of the revised impact fee plan and CIP on January 3rd. If you would like, I could go through the details again, or we could just focus on individual park planning areas and or police or fire if there's questions about them. There is, however, there are 2 updates from what you saw back at the beginning of January. And it's not any new projects, it's just timing has changed. So I'm not sure to the extent that you care about that level of detail, but just to quickly give you that. So on the central bench, the South Pool was moved from 22, which was obviously a typo. It was not going on right now, into 25. And Liberty Park moved back 1 year from 23 to 24. Again, same projects, just changing the timing. On the North River, we have accelerated Gary Lane from 27 to 23. That's based on council priorities. Also, and I don't recall the presentation I gave you if it was a named park at that point or if it was just referred to as the Northwest Park. But those 2 projects are synonymous, one and the same. It was just early on in the process, there was sensitivity around the name, so it was referred to as the Northwest Park. But there was also Boise Hills was moved back from 25 to 27. And another pool project, Lowell, was moved back a year from 23 to 24. But other than that, the entire CIP remains as presented on the 3rd.
Okay, very good. I think at this point, I think we're probably fine leaving it there at that high level. And then obviously we have questions. We can get a little more specific here in a minute. Delaney, I see you're here too. Did you want to present anything right now, or should we just go ahead and dive into the neighborhood associations? Okay, all right, very good. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll bring it back to any questions here in just a minute after we hear from the neighborhood associations.
Great, thank you.
So, with these larger CIP type plans, we typically open this up to any neighborhood associations that are in attendance. Looks like we have Mr. Rob Stark from Barber Valley signed up ahead of time. So we'll start with you, Rob, and then we also have Stacey Friends who signed up as well, but I'm not sure if she's representing a neighborhood association. But we'll start with you, Mr. Stark.
Rob Stark, Vice President, BVMA 6865 East Warm Springs, Boise 83716. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, the Barber Valley Neighborhood Association has become increasingly concerned about further delays in the construction of Alta Harris Park in light of past and possible future diversions of impact fees slated for the Alta Harris Park to other park projects, none of which are in the Barber Valley. At the City Council meeting on November 30th, 2021, Budget Division Supervisor Travis Black told the council that Boulder Park was advanced with funds previously earmarked for Alta Harris because all the funds needed to construct Alta Harris weren't available. At the same council meeting, Council Member Elaine Clegg expressed the desire to use impact fee funds to build a micro park near the Boise State campus. As representatives of our neighborhood, we strongly object to any plan to divert funding away from Alta Harris Park to any other parks. We understand that construction costs have increased and will continue to do so. However, continuing to divert funds away from Alta Harris will only further delay construction of this much needed park in the Barber Valley. BVNA was very disappointed to find out that Alta Harris funds had been used on Boulder Park. While the Barber Valley is included in Southeast Boise from an impact fee standpoint, when it comes to services, the Barber Valley is isolated across the Boise River from the rest of Southeast Boise and requires a different consideration due to the natural barrier. The Barber Valley is severely lacking in Boise parks and recreation services compared to other neighborhoods in the city. There is only one city park in the Barber Valley, Marianne Williams. Well, this is a beautiful park. It is very unique. Marianne Williams is a quiet, contemplative park, which means there's no playgrounds, play fields, no dogs allowed, no bicycles allowed. While we are fortunate to have that park, we continue to hear from families residing in the Barber Valley about the lack of access to parks and playgrounds on our side of the river. Mayor McLean and the City Council have publicly expressed the importance of the goal of having a park within a 10-minute walk of all residents. Almost no residents in the Barber Valley can reach a park in 10 minutes. And for many residents, the walk is over an hour, arguably the worst distance in the city. The Barber Valley is vastly underserved by the Boise Parks and Recreation Department, yet there is consideration of the councilwoman's desire for a micro park in the campus neighborhood that is already a short walk from Julia Davis, Ann Morrison, Kristen Armstrong, Park Center, and Williams Parks. Additionally, BVNA does not endorse the plan to green up Alta Harris with limited amenities due to the fact that there are absolutely no city playgrounds in the Barber Valley. While the new Bowler Park has a playground, as do Barber Park and Bagley Park, no parent in the Barber Valley is going to send their children off on their bikes to ride over the Eckerd or East Park Center bridges to access a playground. As a reminder, residential development in the Barber Valley is generating much of the impact fees in Southeast Boise. It is concerning to expect our neighbors to keep waiting for park services while funds are diverted to other already better served areas of the city. According to the Impact Fee Act, impact fees are to be used to defray system improvement costs to provide additional public facilities to serve new growth, and cities are required to identify the current level of service and deficiencies provided by existing public facilities. In addition, only those items identified as growth-related are eligible to be funded by impact fees, and they must be earmarked to fund growth-related capital improvements to benefit those that pay the impact fees. Most of the new growth and related impact fees in Southeast Boise are being generated by the Barber Valley, and the level of service provided by existing park facilities is deficient. Yet the Barber Valley continues to be given short shrift in regards to Parks and Rec capital improvements. We also have questions about how these numbers came about. At the November 30th City Council meeting, Mr. Black presented a proposed park impact fee in Southeast Boise of $1,511 per person, which matched the numbers from the development Impact Fee Advisory Committee meeting from October. In the agenda packet for the deferred January 10th P and Z meeting, the number was 1335, and today it is 1221. In addition, since November 30th, a line item for a micro park in Southeast Boise for $1.25 million was added, while the line item for Alta Harris was reduced from 4.8 million to 3 million. We searched public meetings, DIFAC, P and Z, City Council, and we hadn't been able to find any record of public discussion of how or when these items changed. We suggest that you ask Mr. Black how these changes happened. Further, we are also unclear if or how the Harris Ranch CID fits in with, or if it even has any bearing on capital improvement projects in the Barber Valley, and are hoping Mr. Black and or staff could address these as well. Many Barber Valley residents who have paid impact fees that were baked into the prices of their new homes and have paid property taxes into the CID are frustrated that they've been paying for capital improvements that the city is failing to provide. With the ultimate goals of one, leaving funds earmarked for Alta Harris Park alone and diverting them nowhere else in Southeast Boise or elsewhere in the city, and two, finding the additional funding needed to bring these long overdue park services to the Barber Valley, the Barber Valley Neighborhood Association requests that you send the CIP back to staff and the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee to address these issues and answer these questions before any action is taken. Thank you. I stand for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Stark. We'll sit tight for questions just for 1 minute. Yeah, thank you. Okay, is there any other neighborhood association in attendance this evening? Come on up.
I have a couple of slides as well.
Sure thing.
Should I come over there? Yes.
Is this the right one?
Yep, perfect. My name is Stacey Friends, and I live at 7604 West Thunder Mountain Drive. I am the president of South Cole Neighborhood Association. On June 17th, 2021, Jennifer Tomlinson with Boise Parks and Rec held a neighborhood meeting for the McGurdio property annexation. Next. During this presentation, she stated that approximately $10 million in park impact fees has been collected in Southwest Boise, but the majority of the money was spent elsewhere. 4.3 million was spent on 2 local parks that are outside of the South Cole Neighborhood Association area. 6.2 million was spent on other regional parks throughout the area, and all of the funds have been used up. With the explosive growth in Southwest Boise and the extraordinary amount of impact fees that are being collected because of all the development in our area, please place some of the money aside into a fund so that the money is there to develop McGurdio Park at some point in the future. I looked through the CIP documents and I can see that McGurdio Park is still on the books. Clearly, South Cole Neighborhood Association is opposed to CPA 21-6 because our park is not being funded. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Friends. Okay, any other neighborhood associations in attendance this evening? Got Erica Schofield online. Just 1 second, Ms. Schofield. Oh, she had her hand up.
She lowered her hand and she's not
Gotcha.
part of it.
Yep. Okay. All right. I think we covered our neighborhood associations then. We'll go ahead and bring this back to the commission for any questions to staff or the neighborhood associations.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Squires.
I missed the meeting on January 3rd and my apologies for that. Could you please, as staff, address the comments that were made this evening, just to put that on the record?
Sure. So the reference was made to the addition of the micro park and the change of Alta Harris from what I believe was 4.8 million down to 3 million. It could have been, it was, yeah, no, never mind. It was 4.5 or 4.8. I apologize. I don't recall off the top of my head. That said, that was based on the discourse during the, that referenced November city council meeting, as well as subsequent discussions with one-on-one with council members to identify any additional concerns that were not raised at that meeting. And frankly, what we heard was no additional concerns outside of the one that Councilmember Clegg raised in the hearing or during my presentation. And so based on that feedback, we adjusted the plan, taking all the regional amenities only, excuse me, let me rephrase that, limited amenities only for Alta Harris and adding this micro park. I think a couple things that are worth noting is this is not the only money that's going in to the park. There's an additional 1.2 that's in the plan, 1.2 million that's being paid for by regional amenities, or I'm sorry, regional impact fees. So that's a total of 4.2 million. And if you look at the plan back in 2016, it identified a total of 1.8 million of funding for this park. And, you know, as you acknowledged, Rob, you know, it was a significant escalation in construction prices. And what's interesting is even if you take 5% and escalate that from 2016 or from 2015 into 2021 dollars, or even continue to 2025 when the park's currently being contemplated, you're still anywhere from 1.2 to $2 million underfunded relative to where we are, what we're proposing today. So the costs have gone up exponentially. The total cost for the project, as originally contemplated, approached $7 million. And so just given the rate of collections and given the fact that the Southeast Impact Fee Fund is currently slightly underfunded, it has a slight balance owing to the city's capital fund because of money advanced for Bowler. You know, by the time that is paid back and these amenities are paid back, I'm sorry, and these amenities actually are the park is greened up with the limited amenities placed. You know, it's just the way that the fund collections work, unfortunately, because everyone wants this park done sooner rather than later. That's true not only in this case, but elsewhere across the city. And so projects in the 10-year CIP tend to be forward loaded. And so we're building parks before we've collected all the money over that 10-year period to pay for parks. And so just given the order of magnitude here, that is the reason why Bowler was accelerated, because we basically had the funds today versus it's unlikely even by 2025 we'll have the funds identified on this sheet to do the development at that point. But that said, that's when it's on the plan currently, just because it was the fastest feasible date. So did that address the question, or was there more I could help you out with background here?
Commissioner
Chair?
Squires, you good?
I think I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Pinbrook?
So when do you expect to fully fund these parks? Did I miss that?
Oh, so just in general, all these costs identified are for a 10-year plan. And so theoretically, we don't have all the money collected for any given project until the end of 10 years. However, that's why there's the prioritization that we have to do based on not only what's laid out in the impact fee plan that's a part of this, but also based on just how collections actually pan out as opposed to how we plan them out. So for example, if we were to be running behind on a West Bench project, or I'm sorry, West Bench collections, that could result in a delay of that project until more collections are realized. but all of our projections are based on anticipated collections over the 10 years. The issue is in the Southeast, it's just these two projects. And so there's not really like the area that I just referenced, the West Bench, where there's half a dozen smaller projects. It's very easy to switch between those projects and say, okay, well, we have the funding today to do this project, but we are delaying this other one because we don't yet have the funding. Here, the issue is, again, with just really the one large project, it's just such a large number. Again, because you're just seeing the 3 million here, but it's 4.2 when you include the amount that's coming from regional fees. That all I'm saying is the timing that we currently have on the schedule, we think is feasible. I'm just saying the reality is collections don't always match up to what we plan. So it creates a difficult trade-off when, parks would not be fully funded until the end of the 10-year horizon that we look at when planning. Hopefully that was clarifying, not confusing.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Black, if you wouldn't mind maybe sounding off a little bit on the concerns over the McGurdio Park site and your thoughts there. We had some comments from the neighborhood association on that project.
Sure. So I know that that issue largely relates to annexation, which fortunately I am not involved in. I just know that this plan that we're developing right now only looks at development within the city of Boise. And so since that park site is not in the city of Boise, it is not reflected in this plan.
Okay. Pretty cut and dry, I think. Thank you. Okay. All right, that does it for questions. Looks like it. Okay, thank you, staff. We'll go ahead and open this item up for public testimony. If you're online, please go ahead and raise your hand if you'd like to testify on this item. And if you're here in person, please come up to the dais, to the podium. Okay, we've got one hand up online, Miss Erica Schofield.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You'll have 3 minutes. Please start with your name and address.
Erica Schofield, 7363 West Limelight Court. I'm going to address 3 issues tonight. First, I want to thank Mr. Black for clarifying the Gary Lane naming issue. That was my first concern because I thought there was some confusion there as well. But I'm glad to see that will be clarified in this document. It's important because the record that I've looked at with the city pretty much shows that parcel was bought with park impact fees years ago. And my neighborhood, which is right across the street, was one of the first projects to pay park impact fees in 1994. So I'm glad to see this park happening. I'm concerned the $700,000 might not be enough based on what we're seeing in construction costs. I'd like to see an additional $300,000 added to that, just because every time I look at the city council's agenda, we see increase in construction costs. That's my first point. My second point, in the past, the capital improvement plan document has always specifically referenced the area of impact. It's used those words, and now those words don't show up at all in this document. So it concerns me as to what's really going on there. Does that mean that the ALI areas are soon to be annexed or not? Otherwise, they should be listed. So I'd like the commissioners to possibly delve a little bit further into that issue. And then my final point regards the fact that it's quite disturbing to see that the fire department now has a level of service response of more than 6 minutes, when all prior impact fee studies had a 4-minute response, and that the collection of impact fees since 2008 for fire have been based on maintaining that 4-minute standard. That standard is in conjunction with Ordinance 5517, which you see as the master siting plan adopted into the comprehensive plan and shown in our table 3, which is a 1.5 mile 4-minute response standard. All of that is aligned with the ISO 3 rating, which our city has had for years. It's too much to go into to try to explain that here, but it serves to ensure public assets are well protected. It's an important tool in liability and risk management and helps control the costs for insurance for everyone. So we always see public safety listed as a strategic priority for the city, yet just saying it does not make it so. A 6-minute response standard is unacceptable to public safety. It places everyone, including our first responders, at significantly higher risk for bad outcomes. I urge you to not allow this plan to proceed without going back to the drawing board to address this increased safety risk and the potential loss of our ISO 3 rating, which will result in higher insurance costs for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schofield. Anyone else online like to testify this evening? Okay, I see no hands raised. Okay, we'll go ahead. I think that does it for testimony on this item. We can have Mr. Black come back up for 5 minutes of rebuttal.
I honestly don't have rebuttal per se, outside of, thanking Ms. Schofield for raising those issues. And I'm sure that when we have the public hearing for not only the impact fee plan, but also the adoption of this amendment, that we will have all hands on deck to address those issues, such as fire level of service, which I believe, and believe is the key word there. It has to do with completeness of reporting. That the 2016, which is part of the reason why you're seeing that big jump on the retail impact fees, just because we have better data on calls for service. And so I'm guessing it's a similar issue there, where it's just a matter of having complete information, or perhaps not complete, but much better information than we had historically, as opposed to a degradation in level of service from 4 minutes to 6. In terms of the Gary Lane, that is still being scoped. So I don't know the exact dollars that will ultimately be involved. But the point on cost overruns is duly noted. I didn't have anything else.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you, staff. All right, with that, we will bring this item back before the commission. Again, this is item number 1, CPA 21-6. And just as a reminder, we are a recommending body to City Council regarding this item. We are not the final decision-making body on this item. So with that, do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Danley.
I make a motion that the P and Z recommend approval for item number 1, CPA 21-06, as is stated in the general report that's part of this plan. Butchered it, sorry.
Oh, good. I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second from Commissioner Stead. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Danley.
impact fees are incredibly complicated, and it's just never an easy thing. And I totally recognize there's this notion of we pay into it. When do we get our portion of it? I completely understand that. I've seen, for example, ACHD used to have 4 different districts. Now they have 1. Anything in downtown Boise basically is paying incredible amount of fees, and look at their CIP and see and tell me where a project that's going to is. There isn't a project listed for miles around, right? And so unfortunately, that's how their system is set up, with just sort of this catch-all. Ours is a little bit different, and I understand the complexities and the timing are not always things that are going to make people happy. But the reality is, especially right now, as was mentioned, these escalators are incredibly high. The inflationary point, construction, on and on and on. So a lot of our things are going to be pushed back, not just, even in the park system. So I wish it was a smoother process. I think maybe council has some additional ideas, but at this point, I think, as stated, the staff has done a good job in trying to account for everything, all these different moving parts. I know that Galena Consultant does great work in this environment and has been doing it for, I think, a decade and a half, 2 decades as well. So I have confidence that moving forward, this is a good document as is.
Thank you, Commissioner Danley. Any other thoughts? No? Okay. Yeah, I'll be in support of the motion as well. I agree with Commissioner Danley's thoughts on the matter. I appreciate the testimony this evening as well. I think in a lot of ways, the message has been sent with your testimony, right? There's frustration in some of these parts of the city regarding lack of progress on some items. So, I think that coming here tonight and giving this your feedback, I think that's a step in the right direction to really start to hopefully get some movement on some of these long-standing projects. It is complicated, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be moving forward with things as planned. So unless I missed any other comments from the commission, I'll go ahead and call the roll here. We have a motion or to recommend approval of CPA 21-6. The clerk, please call the roll.
Stead? Aye. Schaefer?
Aye.
Wires?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Pinfrock? Aye. Danley?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you all. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and move on to item number 2. This is PUD 21-60, Epic Development Derby LLC. Project is located at 11436 West Ustick Road. This is a conditional use permit for planned residential development comprised of 11 multifamily units on 0.99 acres. And I guess we're gonna hear from Ms. Garlick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
There we go.
Members of the commission. This project site is 0.99 acres located at 11436 West Ustick Road in an R1C zone. The site is bordered by vacant lot to the west, townhomes to the east, single-family homes to the north, and the project is in with close proximity to designated neighborhood activity center at West Ustick Road and North 5 Mile Road. The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a planned residential development comprised of 11 multifamily attached homes. The applicant is requesting to utilize the multifamily transit incentive density bonus for R1C, which increases the allowed density from 8 dwelling units per acre to 12 dwelling units per acre. This transit incentive density bonus is allowed for multifamily projects where the parcel is adjacent to an arterial roadway for existing or planned transit service. The subject parcel is adjacent to Ustick Road. It's an arterial roadway with a future planned transit route by Valley Regional Transit. The development includes ample open space, amenities, private balcony, dog park, and gazebo, and exceeds the requirements for our PUD. The units along Ustick have front doors facing the street with connection to the public sidewalk. Site access is provided by an existing 22-foot wide driveway entry, which is shared with the western parcel. Extending from these driveways is a 25-foot wide private road with a hammerhead turnaround. Garage parking will be provided for each new multifamily unit. The applicant has attempted connection with the private road to the east. However, no agreement was made. Standard comments were received from our agencies. Public comment was received from the West Valley Neighborhood Association. They detailed concerns with the landscaping along Ustick Road, clutter and barbecues on porches and balconies, increase to the traffic load, inclusion in the pre-planning process, and that the noticing signs were too small. Staff reviewed those comments and felt this application met or exceeded all those concerns. So with that, we're recommending approval with conditions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Delaney. Next, we'll hear from the applicant.
Good evening, Commissioner. And my name is Ben Lehman, Borton Lakey Law Offices, 141 East Carlton Avenue, Meridian, Idaho. I present Epic Development in this. Had many great conversations with Delaney about this project and kind of where it's going and what's been presented to you all. And any of the terms and conditions that have been made by staff are agreeable to Epic Development as well as those from ACHD. This was previously before the commission with individual homes, and it was a little bit of a different layout, but that's been modified, but we have complied with all of those kind of conditions and terms concerning that. We've also reached out to that association, spoken to those people, and kind of got their input as to it. Like Delaney said, though, they feel that we've met or exceeded the requirements as needed. And so with that, I would just stand for any questions that the commission may have.
Okay, great. Sit tight on questions just for a minute. We're going to go ahead and see if we got someone from the Neighborhood Association present. Looks like that's the West Valley Neighborhood Association. Okay, doesn't look like they're in attendance. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring this item back for questions from the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Squires.
So Delaney, we received a memo that there are updated elevations, update site plan, but it doesn't really detail what. Could you walk us through what those changes are?
Sure. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. Great. So attached here is the changes to the elevations. Originally, they were more of a modern kind of sloped roof. They've modified based on meeting with the neighborhood association, have a more residential, less modern, more cottage feel. So the applicant, was willing to make modifications after the fact, after they already submitted. So staff felt this product still met our requirements and seemed to satisfy to a certain degree the neighborhood association as far as changing the pitch on the roof, modifying that for a different feel.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
So to the north, is that backyards for single family houses?
Commissioner Moore, Chairman, that is correct. The houses to the north are single family and are rear yard to rear yard.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
If I'm reading the site plan correctly, there's kind of some front doors facing the rear yard. Is there any modification to that particular elevation intended for those units that are kind of facing that rear yard?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Moore, we did try working with the applicant on adjusting the location of the front doors. The site is a little bit restricting with its kind of narrow. We did discuss trying to put front doors alongside those internal garages, but the width was not there to meet the fire turnaround access. That being said, we did feel the connectivity with the pathways throughout the project, did make them accessible. And then the amenity space kind of functioning as that backyard space sort of puts a buffer with those front doors facing the rear on that back building.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
One quick follow-up. So are there any large trees or something like that? I think that might be a civil plan that we're looking at right there, just to kind of help buffer those windows a little bit more.
Yeah, Commissioner Moore, Mr. Chairman, the plans, maybe not the ones I have displayed here, but we are requiring some tree plantings along that northern property line or that rear of the site. So additional planting along the property line as well as ornamental planting sort of within those front door grass areas.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Pinbrock.
quick question for the city. On these townhomes right here, do you know the density per acre on those?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Finfrock, I believe those did not utilize the density bonus and that they're single family in nature. So without that multifamily product, they would be R1C at an 8 unit per acre.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
We got Commissioner Mooney online first, then I'll come to you, Mr. Danley. Okay, Commissioner Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Delaney, I have a question. Could you talk through parking, given the PUD application to include bikes and motorcycles?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Mooney. With this project, there is provided bicycle parking. It's kind of at the end of that hammerhead area. It might be a little hard to identify, but just north of the stub of that hammerhead. Additionally, these are provided with 2-car garage. They do exceed our parking minimums for the multifamily units. So we believe there's ample parking both within the garage, outside exterior bike parking, as well as driveway apron parking provided. So that being said, every parking requirement via bike or vehicle is being met.
Okay, Commissioner Danley.
This is a question for staff. Delaney, so the picture that we're being shown here compared to page 5 on our staff report, this one shows meandering sidewalks all over the place. This one is straight as a string. So is it to meander or not to meander?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Danley, the site plans were revised again to provide the change in elevations and whatnot, and we had a few other minor alterations. They did come back more meandering than the original. Speaking with the applicant, I don't believe they have a strong preference. So if we would like to make clear to keep those nice and straight, I think we have agreement on all parties for that.
So they will not be meandering.
We can ensure that, yes.
Great. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Danley.
Question for the applicant. You touched on this and it was discussed during the presentation, but I'm wondering if you could dive in a little bit more. The potential of connecting between you and the applicant to, I believe, the east. Can you touch on that a little bit more? What was the obstacle there?
Sure, Commissioner Danley, Mr. Chair. The challenge there is, of course, as the commission knows, you have to seek permission and get an easement to be able to cross over somebody else's property. We had reached out to the owners of that property and tried to seek some kind of access from that way. That was actually the original plan, and it was built out and designed in that way. But unfortunately, we were unable to get that access. And so that's why it is the way it is. It just kind of ended up that way. We did make attempts though, and they just were unfruitful.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Delaney, quick question from me. I just want to understand the neighborhood association's concerns about the patios and the grills and, generally kind of a messy look maybe.
Sure.
Is that concern was regarding the front doors that face U-stick primarily? Am I understanding that correctly?
Mr. Chairman, in speaking with the neighborhood association, I believe they were kind of referencing front porches that were facing U-stick, but also concerns on balconies. In this case, we don't typically condition things like barbecues or things like clutter on balconies. I would say in this instance, the way that this project is designed, the balconies are interior to the site. So I think most of that concern would be mitigated just by the massing of the building.
Okay, great, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, very good. Thank you all. We'll go ahead and open up this item for public testimony. If you're online and would like to testify, please raise your hand. If you're in person, please come up to the podium. Okay, doesn't look like we have any takers on this item. So typically this is where the applicant gets 5 minutes for rebuttal. If you want to yield that time, that is completely up to you, or you're welcome to make a couple of final statements if you'd like.
I'd love to say we'll yield time to the commission.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and bring this item back before the commission to render a decision. This is PUD 21-60.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Pinfrog.
I move to approve PUD 21-60 along with the recommended and standard conditions of approval.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
Yeah, quickly, I'll just go over my notes. There's a similar residential density with the townhomes. I think we're at 11 units per acre, whereas the townhomes are 8 units per acre, so that's pretty comparable. With all of the density transit and parking bonuses, the application meets the density, height, and parking requirements of the zone. Let's see what else. I know ACHD didn't comment, but those conditions will be incorporated into the recommended conditions of approval. So I think that's covered as well. So yeah, I think that's why I think this is a good project and we can move forward with it from my viewpoint.
Terrific.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Squires?
I will just echo what Commissioner Finbrock said and also state that I appreciate the change in elevation. So I think this is much more fitting for the neighborhood and I really like the look. So thank you.
Any other comments, discussion? Okay. We've got a motion and a second to approve PUD 21-60. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ted? Aye. Schaefer?
Aye.
Squires?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Finfrock?
Aye.
Danley?
Aye.
Mooney?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead and keep on moving to, I believe, item number 4 is next up. That's CVA 21-58. Janet Yokan at 2349 East Gossamer Lane. This is a variance to encroach into the rear yard setback for an elevated deck. This was deferred from January 10th, and we'll hear from Mr. David Mosier.
Working through some technical difficulties. Hold, please.
Where we need the Jeopardy music. Yep, I did.
I apologize for that. I dropped it in the wrong date.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the applicant is requesting a variance to encroach into the rear setback for an elevated deck on 0.1 acres located at 2349 East Gossamer Lane in R1C zone. The surrounding area is comprised of detached single-family homes, and as you can see from the vicinity map, the property is also located within the 100-year floodplain of the Boise River. The subject property contains a single-family house, and the proposed elevated deck is located in the rear yard area. Elevated decks greater than 1 foot in height, and this one is approximately 2, are required to comply with setbacks, and this deck will encroach 6 feet into the rear yard setback. There is an exceptional circumstance associated with the subject property to justify the variance. This justification is that the raised deck would protect the 3 existing 18-inch diameter trees within the backyard. It would prevent soil compaction, which could potentially damage the roots of these trees. In addition, the proposed elevated deck would allow for ADA access from the house to the deck and the backyard area, and there's a hardship associated with the site in that the property is located within the floodplain of the Boise River. Matching the deck with the elevation of the ground floor of the house will raise the deck above the base flood elevation, which minimizes flood risk associated with the site. In addition, to screen the property from the adjacent neighbors, the applicant is proposing to landscape the rear property line with shrubs and trees. The shrubs being proposed could reach a height of 8 to 10 feet. A neighbor did express concerns with the variance in regard to the potential loss of privacy in their backyard. To address this issue, as I've already stated, the applicant is proposing to landscape the rear property line, which will provide screening between the site and the adjacent properties. In conclusion, the planning team recommends approval of the variance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Next, we'll hear from the applicant. Good evening, Miss. Is it Yokan or Yokan?
Good evening, it's Yokan.
Can. Okay. Hi there. Go ahead and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 10 minutes to present your project.
Thank you. My name is Janet Yokan. I reside with my husband at 2349 East Gossamer Lane. Good evening, Chair Schaefer and fellow commissioners, for taking the time to listen. Mr. Moser explained it pretty concisely. We have been in our home for 10 years, and we had a prior deck that we had to demolish that was built originally. It was on a bigger footprint than what we are proposing. How that happened, I don't know, because we seem to be challenged by the setback. But it is a very difficult geography for our backyard. We have 3 large trees. The root structure is reaching into the house. We had considered a raised patio, except that the compaction would have killed the roots. So we went to a deck. We have a hardship of columns in our rear door that would make it impossible for us to have adequate stairs for going down to a lower level, as well as a ramp. And access for us in our aging years is most important, considering the deck will be built for a 30-year deck. We are in the floodplain. The house was originally built to be out of the floodplain. We are trying to match the main level with that of the house. I'm trying to think of anything else. I think in general, that is it. There are exceptional circumstances and also hardship. The trees have made it very difficult for us to plan around. So we're asking for an additional 6 feet in addition to the 5 feet that we have outside of the setback to make a usable deck of approximately 11 to 12 feet, which would allow for a 9-foot setback. And in addition, Mr. Moser had indicated that we have a drainage easement of 10 feet. So we'll cantilever for the last foot so that we don't encroach on that drainage easement. And we have setbacks on the side of 5 feet each, and we will not encroach into those. With that, I will stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. First, before you go to questions, first we'll check in, see if we have any representative from the neighborhood association. That's Southeast Neighborhood Association. I think I saw Mr. Frischman, but maybe he took off. Okay, so I think with that, we'll just go ahead and bring this back to the commission for any questions of staff or the applicant.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Danley.
Just a quick one, and this can be for staff or the applicant really, but I'll ask David. David, in our staff report, under the condition or the approval criteria and the conditions thereof, nothing is specifically stated about this additional landscaping, and I understand why, because it's not a requirement. I'm wondering, maybe to the applicant, we okay with adding that to make it official?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, you could definitely add it. I think I just referenced the actual revised site plan that shows the landscaping.
Does the applicant have any issue with that, I guess, while she's online?
The question is, if I understand, to add in the required landscaping as part of the conditions, is that correct?
Correct. What's already been graciously opted in by you, the applicant, just making it official as part of a term of condition.
Yes, that would be fine. We did have a neighbor concerned from behind us, as well as one other concern with regard to privacy. But with regard to privacy, it's equally as important to us. So we had planned on doing privacy landscaping. It showed up earlier in the plan than when we were actually doing the finalized deck plans, but we are comfortable with this.
Okay, any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mooney?
Yeah, I've got a question for staff, David. So I understand the exceptional circumstances, the protection of the 3 trees and soil compaction. So I'm trying to understand, are we saying that a 2-foot elevated deck will not compact the root structure of those 3 trees and a 1-foot deck will? I mean, that seems kind of strange.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, any elevated deck would probably avoid the compaction of the trees proposed to a in the ground concrete deck that, where you actually we disturb the soil. So you are correct. Any elevated deck, be a 1-foot or 2-foot, would satisfy that.
And if it was a 1-foot elevated deck, then there would be no variance required because they could take this deck all the way to the utility easement. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, that is correct. Decks, it'd have to be under, I think, a foot. So you need like 11 inches. But yes, you are correct.
Right. Mr. Chair, one final one.
Yes, please, John.
I think, Janet, this has been great that you've worked with the neighbors on this and the privacy issue. I guess I'm just struggling with the that 1-foot versus 2-foot in the soil compaction and just complying with the code. I guess I'm not too strong with the exceptional circumstance here to preserve this raised deck. Janet, do you have anything to add to that? I guess a question for the applicant.
You can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so perhaps I didn't, how we got to the at base level elevation for the deck was one, because the columns, you have that in your packet to the side. You could probably see it on the landscape plan. The columns make it really difficult for us to make stairs to go down that would be safe with a landing. So in our old deck, we actually, right out of the door jamb, had a foot drop to get to a 2-foot landing. And then we had to go off to the side to avoid those columns. So the architectural design of the house is actually a big hardship for us in our design plans because the structural columns on the corner of the roof line are directly in front of the door. Mm-hmm. So to a 1-foot or 2-foot, the 2-foot has nothing. When we got to the compaction issue, that was about raising the deck up to floor level in a patio version. And they would have put fill in, and that would have killed the roots. We've always wanted to have our deck at door jamb level so that we have safe movement around our deck. We don't have a lot of room in the deck as a whole. It's going to be 11 or 12 feet deep if we get this approved. It's still not very wide to enjoy it. And by bringing it up to main floor level, it does put us out of the floodplain. In addition to, as we are aging, and we will have a deck that we can safely get in and out of over the rest of our life, because we do not plan to move. The privacy, the deck before that the neighbors faced was only 9 inches lower than the deck that we're proposing. And there is already landscaping in the way. We just need to fill in the few holes that we have agreed to do. where they won't see us sitting or standing on that particular side. And the rest of the neighbors really had no problem. Plus they already had landscaping on their sides. So the safety is probably for my husband and I, the main issue of being able to get out on the deck and maneuver in whatever form we are when we're 80 years old. And having stairs would make it so difficult that we would not even be able to have a landing coming out of the door. So, so I stand for any more questions here.
Good. Thank you. Commissioner Mooney, are you good? Any other follow-ups? Okay. All right. Any final call for questions? All right. Very good. Thank you, everybody. We'll go ahead and open this up for any public testimony. If you're online and you're here to testify for this item, please raise your hand. Okay, no takers. And then I guess Ms. Yokan, if you this is again your time for rebuttal. There's really no questions to rebut here or testimony to rebut. Any final comments?
No, thank you. I think case has been stated.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. We'll go ahead and bring this back before the commission to render a decision. Again, this is item number 4, CVA 21-58.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Danley.
I move that item number 4, CVA 21-58 be approved as with the terms and conditions in the staff report.
Second.
Great. Got a motion and a second to approve. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Danley.
I was going to add the language I inquired about, but don't feel I need to and don't want to add any additional hardship or an inspection later on or anything like that. I think that I've heard what I need to hear. I think there's a commitment on behalf of the applicant and don't need to add anything else to the application. I believe that the hardship has been proven. I think staff did a good job describing that and have no problem with the project overall. And I actually want to compliment the applicant for taking the extra step to do the things that are not specific to code and hopefully ensuring that this be a more seamless product overall.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
And obviously in support of the motion, I think in reference to the 1 foot versus 2 feet, in this particular case, I think it makes sense just because the finished floor was built a little bit higher to accommodate the flood elevation. So I think in this case, it's different than many other sites that we might encounter in the city and that it is in that flood elevation. So that additional foot does make sense to me.
Any other discussion? Okay, very good. We have a motion to approve CVA, a motion and a second to approve CVA 21-58 with all the terms and conditions as written in the staff report. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ted? Aye. Schaefer?
Aye.
Squires?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Finfrock?
Aye.
Danley?
Aye.
Mooney?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Very good. Thank you all. We'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break. We'll be back at 7:15. Got everybody back here. Mr. Mooney online. Let's see him. There's Mr. Mooney. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Next item on our agenda is item number 5, CVA 21-57 Westminster 2 LLC. This item was deferred from January 10th. Projects at 317 South Jackson Street. This is a variance request to encroach into the side yard setback for a residential addition on 0.15 acres. And we're going to hear from staff, Sabrina Mortensen.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the item before you is a variance to encroach into the side setback for a residential addition on 0.15 acres located at 317 South Jackson Street in a C1D zone. The existing home on the parcel currently encroaches 5 feet into the required 10-foot setback. Approval of the variance would allow the addition to encroach into the setback by the same amount. There is an exceptional circumstance associated with the subject parcel, which makes the variance necessary. The development code requires structures in the C1 zone to utilize a 10-foot side setback when the property abuts a residential use or district. In this case, a greater separation is required between 2 residential structures than would be required in most residential zoning districts, including the R2 zone that is located directly to the east of the subject property. Furthermore, the placement of the existing garage precludes the applicant from shifting the addition north in order to comply with the setback. Granting of a variance will not be in conflict with the comprehensive plan or affect a change in zoning. There has already been an existing encroachment in this location, and the variance will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare. The planning team received 1 letter of objection from a neighbor who expressed concern regarding the justification for the variance, as well as potential overdevelopment of the site and increased on-street parking in the neighborhood. The proposed variance will not affect the existing parking for the site, which complies with the requirements of the code, and the proposed floor area is well below the maximum of 1.5, which is allowed for residential uses in the C1 zone. The planning team recommends approval with conditions.
Okay. Thank you, Sabrina. Next, we'll hear from the applicant. Or maybe we won't. Crystal, do you know if we have the applicant in attendance on this one? Doesn't look like.
I am not seeing the applicant.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. Well, with that, do we have any representative from the neighborhood association? No. Okay. Well, we might have to defer to staff or maybe legal advice here. If the applicant's not present, do we take that as that they are in agreement with the staff report?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that if you do go ahead and approve it with the terms and conditions, that it would be assumed that the applicant is in agreement.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary. All right, with that, I think we'll go ahead and open this up to questions of staff. Commissioner Mooney.
Sure, thank you. Could you, Steph, could we go back to the overhead picture? I have a question just for my knowledge on this 10-foot in the commercial C1D district. The next slide, I think. That one right there. So those 2 parcels south of the applicant's parcel, the east-west abutment there, since those are in C1, are those commercial or residential, those 2 parcels south?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Mooney, the 2 parcels to the south are both also zoned commercial, but they are residential uses, both single-family homes.
So from what, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please, Commissioner Mooney.
So what I understand then is that should be a greater offset between those 2 residential structures on those 2 parcels. Is that, am I misunderstanding the request?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Mooney, Is the question whether,
Why, the question is, why are those two parcels south, which are the same, why are they so close together?
I'm not familiar with all of the history on those two sites. It's possible that they were constructed prior to the zoning code, as is the case for the subject property, or they may have been granted a variance at the time that they were constructed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
I guess I'm going with Mr. McIver's rule of law letter, which was pretty clear that the applicant could add on to his existing 1920 residence by coming out the west side of his house and L-ing around to the west side of the existing garage or attaching to the existing garage. I'm just struggling with why you can't do this in accordance with the code, as Mr. McIver wrote in his opposition. Can you help me with that, staff?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Mooney, I believe the main reasoning for that, and the applicant's not here to speak to it, but I believe the main reasoning is because of the internal layout, where that extension would be is an extension of the dining room that's existing. And then the addition of a bedroom and bathroom is further north towards that garage.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, Sabrina. So it looks like, looking at the addition, they're essentially, they're only adding, if I'm understanding this correctly, they're only adding about 8 feet to the structure on that side of the house. And then the remainder of that addition on that south side is over covered patio. That's correct?
Mr. Chair, that's correct.
Okay. And then the remainder of that addition does lie closer to the garage, further in the north side of the existing home.
Yes, that is also correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, great. Thank you. We'll go ahead and just check in, see if there's anybody online that would like to testify in opposition to this project or testify on this project. Okay. We got no hand raised and our applicant isn't here either. So I think we'll just go ahead and bring this item back before the commission to render a decision.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Pinfrock.
I move to approve CBA 21-57 along with the recommended and standard conditions of approval.
Second.
Got a motion to approve from Commissioner Pinfrock and a second from Commissioner Stead. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Pinfrock?
I think just as they pointed out in the staff report, the existing home pretty much encroaches into that side setback. And so I think they're just trying to match that setback with that new build and then kind of keep it consistent. And like it was pointed out, that exceptional circumstance and the current setbacks are set for the C1 zone. But if it was in like a R1 zone, it would just be like a 10-foot requirement. So I think for that reason, and that there's not a lot of comment here, I think I just moved to approve this application.
Okay. No other discussion or any other discussion? Very good. All right. We have a motion to approve CVA 21-57 with all the terms and conditions as written in the staff report. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead? Aye. Schaefer?
Aye.
Squires?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Pinfrock?
Aye.
Danley?
Aye.
Mooney?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay. Next item on our agenda is item number 8. This is CAR 21-38 and PUD 21-62 Layton Construction at 8373 Victory Road. This is a rezone of approximately 15 acres from A1 to R3D with a DA, and then an associated conditional use permit for a planned residential development comprised of 301 multifamily units. And we will hear from Ms. Garlick again.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Before you tonight is a request for a rezone and plan unit development. The project site is approximately 15 acres located at 8373 West Victory Road. The site is located at the southeast corner intersection of West Victory Road and South Trabuco Avenue. It is bordered along the east by South Milwaukee Lane. Uses to the east and south include Boise Independent School District office, high school, a junior high school. To the north, across West Victory Road, is a mix of uses, including single family, outdoor storage, commercial, and industrial. West of Trabuco Avenue is a Parkcrest subdivision, which is comprised of detached and attached residential homes located within Ada County. The site is well served by transit options with an existing bus stop just east of the subject site. And the site is currently vacant and was recently annexed into the city with a land use designation of mixed use. Photos on the left here are just showing the site. Top one is north on Trabuco. The middle is facing south along Trabuco. You can see the Parkcrest subdivision to the west there. And then the bottom photo is south on Milwaukee, just to give you an idea of current conditions. The mixed use designation is intended to promote more compact pedestrian and transit oriented pattern of development. Due to this location, a higher density than what is currently allowed in A1 is supported by the comprehensive plan, which would encourage the compact transit friendly infill development while also maintaining compatibility with the surrounding area. The proposed R3 zoning district allows for a maximum density of 43.5 units per acre. The proposed project is for 301 multifamily units with a total density of 20 units per acre. The R3 zone is intended specifically for higher density for residential development, which is in close proximity to retail, employment, transit, and other concentrated uses. This project would offer a variety of housing types, products, which is near transit, employment, and retail. The PUD proposal associated with the rezone request includes a multifamily residential rental product ranging in 1 to 3 bedrooms comprised of apartments, townhomes, fourplex, and triplex. They range in from 2 to 3 stories in height, with the 3-story residential buildings concentrated along Victory Road and interior to the site, with the 2-story buildings situated throughout the project and along the western boundary next to the subdivision to the west. 2 access points are proposed with the project, one from Trabuco Avenue and the other from Milwaukee Lane. Direct access off of Victory is prohibited. The project will provide 521 parking spaces, which would be comprised of approximately 376 tuck under garage spaces and 145 uncovered parking spaces. This would be provided adequate parking for both residents and guests to the vicinity. Amenities on the site would include a community clubhouse, fitness facility, rooftop patio, outdoor swimming pool, playgrounds, and 2 dog parks. Internal driveways and pathways provide connectivity and integration to the surrounding property. The site does have direct access to an existing bus stop along the east on Milwaukee Lane. A condition of approval requires that this development provide an improved permanent sheltered bus stop to the site. The proposed multifamily use is consistent with Blueprint Boise, compatible with the surrounding mix of uses, and is adequately served by existing utilities and city services. Due to the specific use and location of the property, a development agreement was included. This would provide assurances that the goals of the neighborhood will be supported and that any modifications in the future would require additional public hearing process. The SDA will tie the rezone to the conceptual plan submitted. It will also place limitation on where vehicular access can go, maximum density, and location of the 3-story structures. Planning and Zoning Commission can add, delete, or modify these conditions, which will ultimately be considered at City Council. The planning team finds that the project will be compatible with the surrounding area with the inclusion of the DA. Comments received, late correspondence was provided for you. ACHD did update their agency comment letter. This is in regards to the traffic impact study that was submitted. ACHD did their own observation of traffic impacts in the AM peak hour. And based on those observations, they did require some mitigation. So their change in comment letter really comes down to inadequate storage for queuing in the dedicated northbound left turn lane. And they recommend for mitigation to widen Trabuco Avenue abutting the site to 3 lanes. That would be from Victory Road to the site access. Additionally, public comment was received both during the review and as late correspondence. In general, those concerns regarding the rezone and PUD were in regards to the high density housing within a mixed use land use designation, traffic increase, safety concerns, and incompatibility with the existing neighborhood. Staff considered these comments. We felt that the proposed rezone is compatible with the land use designation and is supported through our Blueprint Boise. We felt the location was appropriate and that they're not maxing out the R3 density with that DA in place. We felt that the compatibility would be achieved. Additionally, the safety concerns and traffic concerns, I think, were all addressed in both the TIS and ACHD comment letters, which I feel address those traffic impacts to the area. With that, planning staff does recommend approval. The motion needed tonight is a recommendation to City Council for the rezone in a final decision on the PUD. Thank you.
Thanks, Delaney. Okay, next we'll hear from the applicant.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Alex Drexel, 3034 Sequoia, Salt Lake City, Utah. Development Director of Layton Construction, speaking on behalf of the application for 8373 West Victory Road. We appreciate the opportunity to present our exciting project here tonight. First, I want to thank Delaney with the City of Boise for her hard work and quick responsiveness throughout the duration of our application process. Before we get into the details of the application and I hand it over to my trusted colleague here, Deb Nelson, I want to walk through the rezoning and PUD applications. I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce myself and the team behind this development. We are working on behalf of the owner, Welltower Inc., to identify, develop, and deliver what we call wellness housing across the greater Treasure Valley. Layton has had a presence in the Boise area since the early 1990s, and many of our employees were born and raised here locally. Other members of the development team are also participating by Zoom and are available to answer questions. This specific development will likely be our first wellness housing project we deliver in the market and brings a differentiated for rent housing option to the Boise residents in a community in desperate need of this very product type in the midst of a challenging housing market. We will soon identify some of the specific factors of the project, but in general, this will be a highly amenitized community, emphasizing walkability, social interaction, and the overall wellness of our residents. Welltower, the owner, is a national leader in health and wellness space and a long-term holder in all our assets. As such, the concerns and complex community dynamics are of great importance to our team. Through a pair of neighborhood meetings and several iterations of our site plan, we adjusted multiple aspects of the plan to address common concerns and questions from the members of the community. We appreciate the thoughtful feedback and look forward to growing together. A common motto within our team is that what is good for the community is good for our project. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the commission. Deborah Nelson, 601 West Bannock, here on behalf of the applicant. Do I have control? I guess I don't have it. Okay.
I can go through it.
If you wouldn't mind, just maybe skip that and we'll skip the vicinity map just in the interest of time. Because Delaney gave a great overview of the application here. So I'd just like to jump right into, why R3 is an appropriate zone in this location and looking at your comp plan and in particular, the mixed use designation. The city's already determined that R3 is an appropriate zone when it designated this property as mixed use because R3 is one of the zones that's allowed by your zoning matrix. A primary purpose of the R3 zone is to accommodate higher density residential development, and it allows for a quality walkable compact development, and that's what's proposed here. The R3 also provides a needed housing type in this area where you don't have high density housing right here. And it provides a great transition to the lower density single family residential to the west and the non-residential uses to the north, south, and east. Next slide, please. The proposed R3 zoning is also consistent with your comprehensive plan policies that call for locating higher density residential within a quarter mile of transit. Not only are we within a quarter mile, the transit line literally circles the site with Route 28. And we have an existing transit stop adjacent to the site on the east. The development will add a bus shelter to improve that, also as called for in your comprehensive plan. So this development, Victory Flats, will provide needed high density housing along a transit corridor that will provide transit access to employment, to commercial locations at Cole Road and I-84, and really throughout the entire VRT connected system. Next slide, please. Looking at the site plan, the development team has really taken a placemaking approach to design with a focus on wellness, as Alex mentioned, walkability, healthy lifestyle, sociability, gathering places. The primary amenities are centrally located, including a clubhouse, pool, dog park, and large landscape lawn areas. The residential block design internally is intentionally designed to create a community with connecting sidewalks, pathways to create easy access to the clubhouse, to the bus stop, to adjacent schools, and creating a walking loop around the perimeter. Surface parking is minimized. Internal trees provide shade and attractive streetscape. The development proposes a variety of housing sizes and options, and I'll get a little bit more into that further on. Next slide, please. The site is accessed on Trabuco Avenue to the west and Milwaukee Lane to the east. ACHD has reviewed and approved the traffic impact study for the development. As Delaney was describing, to mitigate the traffic impacts, ACHD is requiring the development to widen Trabuco Avenue down to the site entrance. This will provide a dedicated turn lane into the development and also will help to alleviate an existing traffic problem on Trabuco where the stacking wasn't long enough to allow the cars waiting to turn left at the AM peak hour without also blocking cars that would like to turn right. And so by widening that, that will really improve an existing condition as well. Next slide, please. Turning to some of the residential layout here, there will be a mix of studio 1, 2, and 3 bedroom residences, all within different building types. As Delaney mentioned, the larger 3-story apartment buildings with the tuck under parking are oriented on the northeast corner along Victory and away from the single family to the west. A variety of 2- and 3-story townhome buildings, 4-plex, 8-plex, and 12-plex will be interior to the site. The western boundary will include, and really most of the perimeter outside of the apartments will include those 4-plex townhomes that are only 2-story, creating a nice buffer to our neighbors. Next slide, please. You can really see that illustrated here with the pink being the 2-story buildings. Next slide, please. I won't spend much time on the elevations, but I really want to emphasize on the 4-plex elevations that the front and the back are attractive. And the front is the upper elevation with the garages because there's a front loading here, but the back is equally attractive and really will be treated as a front facade. That's what will face the western boundary with the neighbors to the west. And so they'll see architectural features that are highlighted with inviting windows and glazed doors, exterior patios and landscaping, and treatment that is deserving of the front facade. In the interest of time, let's skip the next few elevations, please, and go to the clubhouse. just to show you some concepts of the indoor-outdoor fitness area, the large workspaces, event spaces for residents. There's a theater room, amenities for all ages with a 25-meter pool that can be for laps or play, pet-friendly community with a dog park. Next slide, please. And Delaney showed you this concept. Of course, this will have to go through design review as well, but gave you some themes to consider here. Next slide, please. And the quality construction that's at issue here that Alex touched on with promoting healthy living is something to know about each one of these residences. Health and wellness features will include increased air and water filtration systems within each unit and common spaces, additional sound attenuation, because that is a primary focus of this wellness theme, is quality indoor living as well as your exterior living. And next slide, please. Finally, we just have one request. We're in agreement with the project report and appreciate all the work of Delaney. We have one request for the commission to consider, and that is for the existing sidewalk on Milwaukee. Our site is on the left-hand side of this picture to remain. It is already built out. We'd prefer not to have the unnecessary loss in resources and demolition to remove and move an existing sidewalk. And for your consideration, as you think about that, we look to the improvements directly across the street, with that we will be mirroring that same attached 5-foot sidewalk. And so the appearance on this side of the street will match the other. We would not be using this request to increase any of our buildable area. We're simply flipping the 5-foot sidewalk to be attached. The 8-foot landscape strip would be added onto the back side of that. In addition, with the 11 feet of already landscaped setback there, you'll have quite a nice buffer to the street, similar to what you see directly across the street. Milwaukee is already improved to a 3-lane road, so this one is not likely to change across the street either. All of the other treatments throughout the development along Trabuco and everywhere else would match the recommended conditions. On Trabuco in particular, the park strip of 8 feet makes a lot of sense to provide additional buffer to the western neighbors. So that is our one request for your consideration, and thank you for listening.
Okay, thanks. Next, we'll hear from the Neighborhood Association, which I believe is the South Cole Neighborhood Association.
My name is Stacey Friends, and I live at 7604 West Thunder Mountain Drive. I am the president of South Cole Neighborhood Association, and I am also a licensed professional engineer. To be clear from the beginning, the South Cole Neighborhood Association is requesting the denial of CAR 2138 and PUD 2162. My presentation will begin with the surrounding land use, then we will discuss the negative implications of the traffic study and why a rezone to R3 does not make sense. Then finally, we will show the fire code violations that make this development impossible for this location. Next. So we will start with the surrounding land use. The property lies to the south of Victory Road between Maple Grove and Cole. To the west lies the Parkcrest subdivision. To the south lies West Junior High with a current count of 819 students, and Frank Church High School with a capacity of 500 students. To the east lies Dennis Technical Center, which provides ROTC and much needed technical training for 4 area high schools: Bora High, Boise High, Capitol High, and Timberline High. They bus students back and forth throughout the day. Also to the east lies the Boise School District Administrative Building. The roadways into the property are Trabuco Avenue to the west and Milwaukee Lane to the east. Next. I want to give you a quick history of West Junior High. West Junior High used to be located at 711 North Curtis Road, which is located kitty corner from St. Al's Hospital and right next to the large white bulk fuels tanks you see along Curtis and Emerald. At some point in the 80s or 90s, it became apparent that these bulk fuel storage tanks, which contain gasoline, diesel, and jet fuels, were leaking. In fact, The location where I obtained this historical photo of West Junior High included comments from its former students who talked about daily headaches from the intense smell of gasoline. And it took years, but in 2006, a bond election was passed with overwhelming public support to relocate West Junior High, which now sits in a much healthier area surrounded by residential in Margarita Park. Next. Here you will notice that the surrounding residential land use is zoned by Ada County R1, R2, R4, R6, and R8, which allows 1, 2, 4, 6, or 8 dwelling units per acre. What is being asked for by the applicant is Boise City zoning code for multifamily residential units under the R3 designation, which would make this equivalent to Ada County R43.5, which doesn't actually exist, but I pointed out for comparison. I want to show you briefly why the zone to the north is industrial, so you have a big picture, comprehensive understanding of our area, and then go straight into the traffic study. Next. I've placed a red X on the approximate location of the land parcel, and you will see that across the street lies the airport influence area B1. Airports must maintain adequate compatible land use to ensure successful operations. You will see that the trajectory of aircraft follows the main airport runways, depending which direction the aircrafts take off and land. Please take note that the third runway, called 927, which correlates with the compass headings 90 and 270, is further to the south. The Part 150 noise study was done in 2015 and provides a 5-year look forward. So I fully expect that when the next Part 150 noise study is done to accommodate the use of the third runway for Amazon cargo planes in the military, that these noise contours will expand to the south. Next, just one more look at the red X and making note that airport influence area B does not allow residential land use. You will see here that the third runway was previously referred to as the assault strip for military operations, but is now being developed to accommodate the new Amazon warehouse. Because of the airport noise influence, the land use across Victory Road is zoned as light industrial. Next. Now let's move on to the traffic study. I'm going to start with an explanation of LOS, which means level of service. LOS, as it pertains to traffic, is defined by a quantitative stratification of performance measures representing quality of service or how well a transportation facility operates from a traveler's perspective. The grading system is very similar to grades on a report card, but contains 6 categories: A, B, C, D, E, and F. LOS-A is considered free-flowing conditions with little or no congestion, while LOS-F is considered forced or breakdown flow, and the amount of traffic exceeds capacity, calculated as V over C, or the volume of traffic over the capacity of the roadway. Next. Skip. I was excited to see that a traffic study was done by ACHD in your review packet, and they've reviewed the traffic study, showing clearly indicated problems. There's a lot of information in your packet, so I pulled out some of the important details for you. The first thing I want to point out is that Victory Road under current existing peak hour conditions is LOSF. When adding in the project with an additional 166 vehicle trips per hour during peak conditions, it is even worse LOSF, but we don't show less than F. So it was failing before and it continues to be less than acceptable. ACHD did indicate plans to expand Victory Road to 5 lanes here in 2025. But I will point out that in the footnotes of the table that the 5-lane arterial still exceeds the acceptable limits and it would still be LOSF. Next, look at Trabuco. Oh, go back if you can. Next, we look at Trabuco Avenue, which is the signalized intersection along the western side of the property. This roadway is the main entrance and exit serving the existing subdivision and also West Junior High, Frank Church High, Dennis Tech Center, and the admin building. The reason for this, I will show you in a moment, is that the roadway along the eastern side of the property is partially blocked to control the flow of traffic for safety reasons. So they analyzed the main collector roadway, Trabuco Avenue. Existing conditions show peak hour conditions are currently acceptable at LOSD. However, for existing plus the project, it becomes LOSE, which is no longer acceptable based on those ACHD footnotes. If I add existing peak hour 385 vehicles and projected project at 166 vehicles, the total becomes 551 vehicles per hour, which is still exceeding LOSE, even if they expand Trabuco Avenue to 3 lanes, because as you see in the footnotes, that would still exceed the acceptable volume of 530 vehicles per hour. Next. This map is highlighting the existing road infrastructure in blue. You will see that the subject property is located along Victory Road and is only accessible from Victory Road. It is not accessible from the west due to the subdivision, not accessible from the east due to the school district buildings and 5 Mile Creek, not accessible from the south due to the location of West Junior High and further south from Margardio Park. Next. Here I'm showing the collector roads, which are the entrance and exit to the subject property. To the west, you will see the signalized intersection at Victory and Trabuco. To the east, you will see right in, right out concrete barrier curbing on Milwaukee Lane. The reason for this concrete barrier is that due to the traffic volume on Victory, ACHD determined that it's no longer safe to make left turns from the property and to not disrupt the smooth flow of traffic from the east to remove left turns into the property. Next. I'm just showing you traffic conditions in the morning. The one on the right is showing you Trabuco Avenue with the traffic going all the way down to the light. My daughter actually took these because I drive her into West Junior High. Next. I want to look now at the intensity of this development. This is a 15-acre parcel planned for 301 residential dwelling units and a parking count of 500 stalls, which may have been shown in other documents as 521, I'm not sure. Based on current census demographics of 2.68 residents per unit, the population is expected to be 807 people. Next. Now I want to focus on IFC section 106, and we want to skip to D 106.2, which applies, which says that projects having more than 200 dwelling units shall be provided with 2 separate and approved fire apparatus access roads, regardless of whether they're equipped with an approved automatic sprinkler system. Next. The nearest fire station is Station 17, located at Margardio Park along Cole Road. Fire trucks would travel north on Cole to the intersection at Victory and turn onto Victory Road, but not have access on Milwaukee Lane. Because of the concrete triangle barrier, they would be prevented from accessing this site. The only entrance that is accessible is along Trabuco Avenue. Next. This is again showing the concrete barrier right in, right out at Milwaukee Lane. Next. ACHD must accommodate growth and development. However, they must also weigh and consider the flow of traffic on main arterial roads. Based on my 20 years living in Southwest Boise, I can say that it's pretty clear that Victory Road is a very popular choice for commuter traffic for the entire Southwest Boise region, traveling east to west, connecting Nampa, Meridian, and Boise. Next, I found the Communities in Motion page located in your application packet. I found it odd but interesting. They are calling the Victory Flats 52 households, and they say that based on the CIM forecast, it reduces performance and it won't assist pedestrian levels of stress or bicycle levels of stress. So next. Now we're just looking at the comprehensive plan. I want to say, although the property was recently annexed and changed in the comprehensive plan to be a mixed use land designation, the R3 zone is not the best fit for this area. In fact, there are 21 other zones that it could be zoned to, as it conflicts with several key principles in Blueprint Boise. Contributing traffic will worsen air pollution. It will negatively impact the existing neighborhoods and schools, and it diminishes safety. A less dense development zone with less impact on traffic in this area should be considered. It will
The Friends, I hate to cut you off. We're at 10 minutes, which is also the time that the applicant had to present. So can you just wrap it up here for us in the next 30 seconds?
Can you go to the last slide, please? SCNA requests the denial of CAR 2138 and PUD 2162 based on the existing level of service F traffic conditions and the potential for even worse than worst case traffic impacts. Based on traffic impacts, it simply doesn't make sense here. But based on fire code, I don't believe it's possible to place this development in a location with a partially blocked access road. Please do not rezone this parcel as R3 because this area can't handle additional traffic impacts. And please understand that the PUD seems to be in clear violation of the fire codes. We need to consider a less dense residential zoning along this already congested LOS roadway. if we do proceed to do this in violation of the safety for these possible residents and the community as a whole, then the city is fixing one problem while creating another. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll go ahead and open this item up to questions from the commission.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Finfrock?
I think this is a question for the South Pole Association. If McGardio Park goes in, wouldn't you expect that there will be an increase in properties with higher density in this area? That tends to follow parks and other types of recreation that go into these locations. So wouldn't it be appropriate to increase the density so that more people can enjoy the park once it goes in, hopefully if it goes in?
I think the concern at this point is the traffic located along Victory Road, and certainly there will be other road infrastructure possibly coming in from the south at some point in time, but since there is no plan to place the park at this point in time, I don't even think it's on the 10-year or 20-year look. So I don't think I'm considering it at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Moore?
So there's a development agreement attached to this application, but I'm looking at 3-story units and 20-foot access roads. So I'm assuming that they'll need to increase to 26 feet. Would that result in a modified development agreement to increase most of them by 6 feet throughout?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Moore, Fire did provide comment on this application, so they will have to adhere to the comment letter in Fire. The development agreement is allowing flexibility for site plan and design review issues, but we're really tying the concept to the DA, as well as restrictions such as vehicular access not to be directly off of Victory, as well as capping the density so we don't see it shoot up to that 43.5 units per acre. Additionally, we are also just recognizing that we would like to see a transition of 2-story to 3-story. So there is flexibility for the site to make changes to accommodate fire and design review as well.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please.
A little bit of follow-up, and this is probably for the applicant, but 6 feet in a site like this is relatively significant. Are there any features, I know green space and common area or things that are important that might go away with the addition of this widened access road?
Commissioners, Commissioner Moore, no, the applicant did look at that when they got the comments from the fire district. They are not worried about accommodating that. They will work with fire to provide the needed fire width in the drive aisles.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Moore?
Just one additional, so on that turn lane on Trabuco, I saw there was an aerial that kind of showed 3 lanes, but ACHD talks about it being 2 lanes. Is it just an extension of one of those that we're talking about, or is it an additional lane altogether?
Commissioner Moore, I could answer that. There is an existing 3 lanes right at the intersection of Victory Road on Trabuco, and they're requiring us to extend that much further because it's 2 lanes for most of it. And so to extend that 3-lane section all the way down to our driveway so that it creates both a turn lane for our driveway and additional stacking room for Trabuco exiters. Turning left onto Victory so they don't block people who want to turn right.
And Mr. Chair,
please.
just a little bit of follow-up. So it looks like there might be some patios out there, but the townhouses themselves don't look like they're set back. So you don't anticipate losing any amenities or any landscaping in order to achieve that as well?
Commissioner Moore, no, not for that 6 feet. And I'm sorry if I misunderstood which widening you were asking about before, but no, they've looked at that as well and are confident that they can include that additional width that's needed to accommodate the new turn lane.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mooney has his hand up online.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I got a question for the applicant and the staff. For the applicant, you mentioned sound attenuation. for the units in Victory Flats. Could you elaborate on that?
Commissioner Mooney, yes, and I'll ask Alex if he wants to add on to this, but that will be attained through higher insulation of the walls and building materials. And so it is a theme, particularly in the bedrooms, to make sure that they have that sound attenuation. And relevant to this, of course, came up with the neighborhood association's comments about the airport influence A. So additional sound attenuation will be appropriate here. They'll certainly meet all of the city's requirements for that. And their existing construction design and wellness theme will fit right in with that.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mooney.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to thank the neighborhood association for bringing up the airport influence area A and runway 927. I looked that up in the master plan for the airport, and I'm not concerned about that south assault strip being a problem for Victory Flats in the future. But I was surprised that neither staff nor the applicant addressed the fact that this property is in the airport influence area A, and 25 dB is required across all the buildings in the development, and that wasn't indicated anywhere in our staff report. So I'm glad the neighborhood association brought that up. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Daly.
I've got a few questions, if I may. This can be either way, applicant or staff. In most of the conceptual plans, the main building that fronts Victory is the rather large one that's sort of L's, J's, whatever letter you want to say, sort of down toward Milwaukee, I think it is, and it comes around. In other parts of our staff report, that front building is broken into two. First, particularly in the Kimberly Horn, the TIS, the ACHD stuff. So I'm assuming that this is the accurate depiction. Is that correct, first of all?
That's correct.
So I guess then the follow-up would be, why did that change? Why did we go from these two buildings with a break in the middle to sort of this larger mass that takes up more of the bulk of the front end of the property? I'm curious behind that.
Commissioners, again, I'll provide an explanation, and Alex can add to it if he wants to. The site has evolved a few times, initially in response to neighbor comments that they didn't like those larger buildings being closer to the western edge, and so they were moved over, and staff's comments as well to orient the larger apartment buildings along Victory and really to the north and the east to pull it away from the homes on the west. And then the detailed configuration also has been an evolution as they've tried to figure out the most efficient use of the site, still trying to get that residential grid, walkability pattern interior to the site, but have and have the appropriate perimeters with the two-story buildings everywhere else except those apartment buildings that then are concentrated on that north and east. So it's just been an evolution and thinking of how to best arrange those uses.
Okay, if I may, a few questions with respect to the traffic impact study. 1,981 is the projected number of vehicle trips supposedly that's going to come from this in the year 2025. How many bus riders are we projected to have?
Commissioner, I'd be happy to answer your question if you like.
Yeah, that's the question.
We don't know, of course, that's not something that's studied or known and estimated, but when you have transit immediately adjacent to the site, you certainly have a lot better chance, and people will use transit. The exact number, I don't have a study in front of me to tell you what that's projected to be.
And you're being required to, I think it's a requirement to upgrade the bus stop that is on site.
Yes.
Okay. How many pedestrians are being generated from this site?
Yeah.
How many bike riders are being generated from this site?
We hope a lot. We hope that it's a very pedestrian friendly community that has a lot of bike riders in it.
And you're being required to put in 301 bike staple racks for bicyclists, right?
Right.
We have a letter from the school district that says 32 additional students will be generated for Maple Grove Elementary, which is on the other side and down the street. How many of them might be walking? I know the answer to these questions. It's more for the conversation in that, and it gets to 1,981 vehicle trips are going to be generated in the year 2025, according to our TIS. This isn't a you thing. This is a general thing. We have, as the neighborhood association pointed out, the level of service, bicyclist and pedestrian, that also wasn't captured in the TIS. I recognize that this isn't all on the developer and the applicant's shoulders. It's more of just a frustration because there's a lot of great things, right? A lot of things that you're being required, but we have no answers on some of these things with regard to the generation thereof. That's where I'm sort of generally going. I know that's not a question. I apologize. It's more of just a general thought that relates to the requirements of you, the applicant, however, and some of the things and conditions that we may have to put on the applicant with respect to things that we don't know. So I'll hold them there.
Mr. Chair, may I respond?
Yeah, sure, Ms. Nelson.
Yeah, Commissioner Danley, great comments and questions. I think that's really thought about in your comprehensive plan and in those sections that talk about oriented high density residential on transit corridors. And yes, it doesn't quantify a number, but it encourages people to live on transit. And you lose an opportunity if you don't take sites that are available, few and far between, on a great transit route like this, where you have an adjacent stop, to capture those folks and give them an alternative. And really, I mean, again, the comp plans calls for high density residential in those locations. So the city as a whole has thoughtfully, considered that. I mean, there are some other comments I could make in response to the traffic concerns and that traffic count if you want to go there. But I really think that transit commentary is a good one of how many people are going to use it. Well, you guys have hoped for a lot by encouraging high density residential on those corridors. I mean, you're also right next to schools, you're near employment. I mean, I think there's a lot of great opportunities for using this particular property for that. It's also a lot less dense than your comprehensive plan would accommodate and has considered for this location. It's fewer trips than you'd get from commercial. It's certainly fewer trips than you get for the 43.5 units per acre that we're not proposing.
Right. If I may, Mr. Chairman, just a follow up to the comment. Sure. I agree. And it gets back to, for example, one of the biggest generators of vehicular trips is schools. In AM peak in particular, right? The very things that are being required of the street improvement and the left-hand turns. And we have a suggestion of number of students, for example. I almost wonder if that's even considered within the TIS, right? In terms of, could those be transferred to walkable trips rather than drivable trips? That's my point. And that's, again, it's more broad about just this process that we have. And the things that are missing. So that's where I'm generally going. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Mooney has his hand up again.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So I here on the transit and bike ped discussion. So I'd like to take Commissioner Danley's comments and turn them into a question for the applicant. But some preface on that. Victory is going to, in the integrated 5-year work plan for ACHD, will become a level 3 bicycle facility, which means it will be a protected facility east-west up on Victory there. I was disappointed with ACHD in that when they asked to widen Trabuco for access to Victory Flats, there was no discussion about a protected bike facility in that lane coming down from Victory to the entrance. And I was also kind of frustrated with the fact that Boise School District didn't talk about safe routes to school. There's a elementary school, as we talked about, 0.6 of a mile to the northwest. And of the 46 kids that are going to go to that elementary and junior high nearby, how they're going to get out of Victory Flats safely on a bike to those two schools. So the question for the applicant is, would you consider widening Tribuco from Victory all the way to the end of your frontage and include a protected facility for bikes?
Chairman, Commissioner Mooney, I'll visit with the applicant and we can see if there's a further response to this. I don't know that there's room within that widening to add a protected bike lane. It is already going to, as Commissioner Moore pointed out, require an additional 6 feet there. So I suspect there's not room for a bike facility there. We do have the detached sidewalks within the entire perimeter of our property though. As far as the widening of the 3 lanes to the south, I believe Boise School District has future plans for development of the vacant parcel that's to our south that could involve that. So there may be future widening with future development there. We'd certainly would be happy to be part of a conversation about that, make sure our site plan accommodates that so that widening can continue.
Sure.
Commissioner Mooney, yeah, please.
Yeah, just to follow up on that. I was confused about Protex / Milwaukee and the VRT stop and the fact that ACHD's comments about it being a private drive. Can the staff explain that? Why we're talking about a private drive on the east side of this Victory Flats?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Mooney, that particular road it's existing and it came in as a private road. I don't know that ACHD plans to, adopt it as a public road. At this point in time, it's just Victory and Tribuco that ACHD would really have their jurisdiction on.
So then the Victory Flat circulation plan for these 301 units can't really consider Milwaukee at all. And how can VRT be using that as a route if it's a private road?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Mooney, I don't know that I have a direct answer for that, other than these are kind of existing conditions that we're working within and that the applicant was able to obtain access to the Milwaukee lane for this project.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Mooney. On that line of questioning to Delaney, not to step into it any deeper, but the applicant's thought or request to leave the sidewalk attached on Milwaukee, does staff have any opinion? I mean, I know the staff's opinion would be a detached sidewalk. Any thoughts on leaving it as an attached facility?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, as the project came in for review, we did require as a condition of approval to provide detached sidewalks throughout on all frontages. Understanding that there's existing conditions, we do realize we don't necessarily want to take out a resource that's, functioning and working, but we would leave it up to the discretion of your commission to decide on that improvement.
Okay, great. Any other questions? I guess one more just to close up, and Commissioner Danley kind of brought this forward too. Is it clear in our, I'm not sure if it is clear in our packet, that the conceptual plan that we are all looking at is the selected plan that's going to be tied with the DA? Because there are various plans in the packet, as Commissioner Danley mentioned. Is the city comfortable with how it's laid out currently, and is clear that all parties are clear about which plan is the plan that's tied to the DA? Or do we need to come up with a condition that specifies, which concept plan we're talking about?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I think staff and feel confident in the conceptual plan that is agreed upon. That being said, our DA does have language to allow flexibility and modifications. Like I mentioned, there is a design review component, which may change some things like parking islands, location of parking stalls, that kind of thing, as well as addressing things like the fire width of the aisle. So we do anticipate some modifications to this plan, but as a concept, yes, we agreed on the most recently revised submitted plan, which is before you today.
Okay, great. And applicants, you guys agree with that as well?
I agree with the way Delaney described it perfectly.
Okay, great. Okay. Sorry, Commissioner Mooney.
All right, I wanted to thank you, Mr. Chair. This general design principles for the airport influence area. So the question for the applicant, are you okay with complying with the comp plan regarding soundproofing and use restrictions for airport influence area A?
For soundproofing, yes, Commissioner Mooney.
Because it's basically calling for 25 dB in all for the entire project.
Yes, that is acceptable.
Okay, great.
Okay, I'll do a last call for questions. All right, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and open this item for public testimony at this point. We have a few folks online. If you'd like to testify on this item, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I see no hands up. Oh, did I miss them? Nope. Okay. Well, looks like no testimony on this item. So, Ms. Nelson and Mr. Drexel, I know you just sat back down, but you do get a few minutes for rebuttal. Do you just want to give us a couple of final thoughts here? There's really nothing, no testimony to rebut, of course.
Chairman, members of the commission, I was just looking to see if there was anything that was raised by the South Cole Neighborhood Association and their comments that we haven't already covered through the commissioner's questions. I believe we have covered everything. Is there anything else you want to address?
Yeah, I would just say that the entire premise of this community is based around the walkability and the bikeability of the project, and what we can control within the confines of our project and the close proximity to it. We'll make sure that we adhere to the best of our abilities to address all those comments. So,
Chairman, with your indulgence, I'm reading my notes one step further. One additional comment that we didn't get to with the traffic that I just want to point the fact out that in addition to the future widening of Victory that's planned, ACHD also does show on their master street map connectivity from south of this site through extension to the south from Milwaukee, and then heading to where the north of the park area is planned, and then extending east and west to distribute traffic out to the arterials from that direction. So just one additional point for future traffic infrastructure planned for this area. Thank you very much for your consideration of all of our comments.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, is there? I missed that.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi, is this Mr. Cottle?
It is, yes. Yeah, I'm the architect for the project, and
okay.
Just wanted to just speak to the fire code concern. Currently Milwaukee Lane is your only fire access point for both your high school and your junior high school. So to consider that not a legal fire access, to me, isn't correct. There's nothing in the fire code that requires that the access has to come in from both directions equally, as long as the trucks can make access and hit the proper radii. And within the development itself, all of the internal circulation and is designed around fire apparatus having to go through or being able to go easily navigate through the development. And finally, I think that the reality is too that we're a long ways from getting into the details on this, but we still have to go through design review committee, and part of that is an exhaustive review with the fire marshal, which we do on every project. And so ultimately the fire marshal has the last word on that, and life safety is our prime concern when we design any project. So We follow the directions of the fire marshal to the letter. So I just wanted to make a point of that.
Thank you, Mr. Cottle. And since I've got you here, could you just share your address for the record too, please?
Yeah, it's 52 Exchange Place, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84111.
Terrific. Great. Thank you. Okay. All right. I think we've got all of our comments in, so we'll go ahead and bring this back before the commission to render a decision. Just a reminder for all of us, we need a recommendation to city council on the rezone. That's CR 21-38. And then of course we have a decision to make on PUD 21-62 as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Danley.
I think I'm going to do this first with the rezone, if I can. So I make a motion that item number 8, specifically application CAR 21-38, rezone application be recommended for approval with the terms and conditions in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, we've got a recommendation to approve CAR 21-38. Any discussion?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
To me, this is pretty straightforward. It's land use overlay is mixed use. R3 is one of the already approved land use codes within that mixed use designation. So we're pretty clear there. To me, this is clearly an infill site, and you're a mile away from the interstate, right? We're so close to so many wonderful things in this part of town that the request for this type of zoning is appropriate. And so I don't see any reason why we should deny the application.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Squires.
I'll just add, I actually did the entitlement work for Park Crest subdivision to the west way too many years ago. I'll date myself. But I will say that this is what was exactly planned for the site at that time. So I think it's appropriate, and I would second that motion.
Okay. Any other comments or thoughts? Yep, I'm going to be in support of the motion as well. For all the reasons that Commissioners Danley and Squires mentioned. When you look at this and you look at the density that R3 brings here, now I know we're getting into PUD territory here with these comments, but we're quite a bit lower than what's allowed in R3 with what they're proposing on this site. In fact, the density is closer to R2 than it is R3. So I agree that, this is a good use for this piece of property. And I think there's definitely some steps they need to take to clean up a few things, but I think they'll do that. I think it's achievable. Commissioner Mooney, I saw you maybe unmuted there. Did you have some comments too?
Mr. Chair, no, I was just going to say I'm in support of the motion as well. I have some PED comments I'd like to get into when we get to that.
Okay, sounds good. Okay. We have a motion to recommend approval of CAR 21-38. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead,
Aye.
Schaefer,
Aye.
Squires,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Infrock,
Aye.
Danley,
Aye.
Mooney.
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay, very good. We got one box checked. Let's move on to PUD 21-62. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Danley.
I'm going to make a motion that item 8, specifically PUD 21-62, conditional use permit for a planned residential development, be approved with the terms and the conditions found in the staff report.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We've got a second from Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Danley, you want to start us off on some discussion?
Sure. Okay. So with respect to the actual application itself, in terms of the number of units, R3, as we know, is permitted to go up to 43 units. This is only going to 20. So in theory, this could be over twice more dense than what's actually being proposed. But I do think that this is a good medium. there's a lot with respect to this one and the traffic piece of it, right? And we know that there's obviously with ACHD, I was hoping that we would get a briefing on the KMST court case that allows this commission to make decisions on transportation more than I think we recognize. This illustrates it to a T. That's where I was going with the questions. Forgive me for a moment, but we are a city that is trying to become more walkable. We are a city requiring to be, more bikeable, the greenhouse gas emissions, transit, all of these things. This traffic impact statement says none of that, absolutely none of it. There's 3 bullets on the bottom of 1/5 of one page that actually gets to this. Why is this important? Let me give you an example. The intersection of Trabuco and Victory is signalized, right? We have no conditions. We have no existing condition data that tells us how that's functioning for people who are walking, right? Nothing. How long do they have to get across that street? That left-hand turn from Victory South is a flashing yellow arrow. That is specifically something in the transportation industry that has arisen in the last 5 to 10 years that has a marked increase in fatality rate. We saw it in this city on Milwaukee up near the mall when an elderly couple was struck only a few years ago. So ACHD was supposed to change the traffic cabinet so all of those push buttons would preempt that flashing yellow arrow. We specifically have a school on the other side of the street. We have bus stops down the road, right? All of these things, and that's where I'm going. We have no information at all on how many people are walking. What's that experience like? What Compass even said it with their pedestrian and bicyclist level of service. We are missing a lot of things that as a city, if we are truly trying to go in this direction, in my mind, we need to be provided with that. We need to be, thinking about this, getting the developer as a part of a requirement to provide it. It's so too does ACHD, right? I totally understand, that relationship. I think overall, the application is a solid one. I really do. I think it's a really solid application. I don't have any issues with it. I think it provides a tremendous amount of housing. I think that the layout is adequate. I know that there are some details that I believe that through design review, we will get through the finish line and get to an even better project. So I have no issue moving it forward to get to that point. I think that the applicant made their own point, however, when it comes to the detached sidewalk. And that is that if, as Commissioner Mooney pointed out, we do want to get bicycling to Victory, and this is going to be improved, then yes, we need to think about how to do that. And at the very least, a detached sidewalk, which is not a bicycle facility, but at the very least, that should stay and it should maintain. So there's other things I think as part of this application that I can go on, but I've said way more than I should. I'm supportive of the motion and the application as a whole.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Stead.
I just wanted to make a comment to the neighborhood. Your notes on traffic are compelling, and there's unfortunately little, we say this often, but there's little that control that we have over the street dynamic. And I would encourage you to take those notes to ACHD and appear at their meetings and, pass that information on to them. You can probably start with email, but get that in front of them, put it on there. Make sure that you're diligent with them and put it on their radar the way you put it on ours.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Moore.
So obviously I'm in support of the motion. And I think, generally this is a really unique kind of development with the wide variety of housing that's provided. I mean, it's something that we definitely don't see, and it's exciting. I think with regards to traffic, I'm really glad to see the revised report from ACHD. They went out and kind of took a look at what was going on and added that additional condition. I think that is, a step in the right direction in terms of mitigating some of those items and kind of checking that traffic impact study. And then just looking forward to seeing those revised plans and seeing it go through DR.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Mooney.
Mr. Chair, I obviously, not obviously, but I also like the project and am supportive of the motion. With a couple of questions as a new guy again. the applicant seemed agreeable to the general design principles for the airport influence area. Is it appropriate to add that as a condition of approval here for the PUD? That's my first question for you, Mr. Chair. And then the next one would be, or for Commissioner Danley, since it's his motion. The next one is it out of bounds for us to make a condition of approval on Tribuca to install level 3, ACHD level 3 bike facility on Tribuca in accordance with connecting up to the Victory level 3 facility?
Yeah, Commissioner Mooney, I think, sorry, the first issue, was amending regarding the airport. And I believe maybe Delaney, if you could help us out, just to confirm, the airport did not provide us any information in our packet, correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, that is correct. I will make note that in the staff report, there is mention of the airport influence zone, I believe under section header number 2, as well as a reference in the comprehensive plan. So one of our things we're looking for is compatibility with the plan, and we did call out the airport influence zone as this project meeting what Commissioner Mooney is recognizing as that the sound attenuation requirement. So maybe not specific as a condition, but it is cited in the staff report that it's compatible with what was called out in the comprehensive plan in regards to the airport influence.
Okay, great. I think we're good there. And then, Commissioner Mooney, it's always a sticky one with road requirements in ACHD. I personally, hate to put conditions on an applicant that we don't really have control over, right? I think we just have to trust, their ongoing relationship with ACHD and any comments they may any additional comments they may receive from ACHD as they work through the design review process. But this is not a one-man show. So if there's other thoughts from my fellow commissioners, I'm all ears, right?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So to follow up on that, yeah, I agree. It's sticky and it's tough to do that. I guess the unfortunate part of it is that it'll eventually become an issue. Safe Routes to School is going to step in and they're going to say, how do we safely get these kids up Tribuca, across Victory over to Maple Grove Elementary? And there's going to be a bill to the public to reconfigure Tribuca or Milwaukee sometime in the future to accommodate bikes and peds safely. So we can either do it now with this applicant, or we can spend the money later, and it's going to be more later. That's what the unfortunate part from my perspective.
Right. No, and I totally agree. And I know Commissioner Danley's got some thoughts on the matter here too. So let's hear from him.
Quick point of order question. I'm trying to find it. I can find it, but maybe staff can tell me. The buffer space between the detached sidewalk and the curbing on Tribuco, is it 6 or 8 feet?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Danley, it is a condition of approval and it is a 5-foot detached sidewalk with 8-foot
There you
landscape
go.
buffer.
There's your solution. So what we could do, and this could be a conversation that we have before making an amendment to the motion, is we could make a condition that be a side path, a multi-use side path rather than a detached sidewalk. That would actually be an effective treatment. And it's done in many, many communities all over the place. So in other words, instead of it being a 5-foot sidewalk with an 8-foot detachment and presumably some degree of landscaping, you can make that 10 feet, right? And then you'd have an additional 3 feet that probably wouldn't be landscape, but it could be some sort of a hardscape or something. But you definitely have the space within the space that we do have authority over to make that a more functional multi-use facility that does get folks up and down, not only from this development, but also to the schools, to the signalized intersection in Victory. So, something to consider there.
Any other discussion while we all kind of ponder that situation? Okay. Well, I guess to take a step back, I'm in support of the motion as well. I think you guys have done, the development team has done a nice job with this layout and this project. As I mentioned earlier, I appreciate while we are you're proposing, you know, an R3 zoning, you're definitely closer to an R2 as far as the density is concerned. I think that is a positive. I think that's a pretty thoughtful site layout. I appreciate the amenities and the approach that you've taken. Most of my concerns were covered in our discussion or in our questioning from Commissioner Danley, Commissioner Moore, regarding the fire lane accesses or fire lane widths. I appreciate staff's review and their comments, the conditions within the staff report, protecting, you know, the 5-foot sidewalks and the detached planter strips throughout the development. Because I could easily see some of that landscape go away as you widen out your fire lanes. So I appreciate staff doing a thorough job and checking all the boxes from an overall site perspective. In regards to the sidewalk, you know, along Milwaukee, you know, I don't think a motion is needed per se. I personally think that that's something that can be covered when you get through design review and have that discussion with the design review board. I don't think it needs to be necessarily covered at this level. I'm amenable to leaving that sidewalk attached because it is an existing facility. So I guess that's where I'm at on that side. In regards to Tribuco, yeah, I've seen it like Commissioner Danley suggested, you know, going to a wider sidewalk there. I think in that case, I'm actually just okay leaving it as it is with a 5-foot with a planter strip and detaching that sidewalk. And again, maybe working through any additional feedback you may get from ACHD during the design review process. And then of course, working through the rest of the site conditions with Public Works, Fire, and Design Review Board. So that's where I'm at. You know, if any of the other commissioners want to make a motion or propose an amendment to the motion, I think Commissioner Danley is open to that suggestion.
Sure.
Commissioner Mooney?
Let me try it then. So I move that we approve
Well, we got it.
PUD 2162 as staff has conditioned with the addition of a ACHD level 3 bicycle facility on Tribuca for the length of the frontage of Victory Flats.
I believe there's already a motion for the PUD.
Oh, we do. That's right. So we have an open motion. We got to deal with that first and then amend it. If,
Mr. Chair.
thank you, Mary. Yes.
Yes, so Commissioner Mooney's statements could be taken as a motion to amend the current motion on the table, or the chair could take a vote on the open question prior to considering
Gotcha.
Commissioner Mooney's comments.
Let's take him as an amendment to the current motion and see if we get a second.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Stead.
I guess that the reason I'm hesitant to condition that is, first of all, I personally am not familiar with what that looks like. We haven't done that here before, and not to say it might be the right idea, but because I'm not familiar with it, it's really hard for me to move forward with the additional expense, loss of green space on behalf of the applicant when it's just not what I know. And especially for me, putting the words conditioning a word, the ACHD acronym in the condition makes me feel uncomfortable because we don't have any, I mean, that would be like, you know, ACHD conditioning us to do something and we can give each other recommendations, but difficult to require an agency to, or even the applicant to follow another agency's guidelines like that. So for me, I don't support the amendment to the motion at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner Stead. I'm in agreement with that. I think the other part here, Commissioner Mooney, that I think is of importance is that this is going to be a phased project as well. And we didn't really talk about that at all, you know, during the discussion, deliberation, but, you know, our packet indicates, you know, the phasing process that they're going to take to construct this project. So it's going to take, you know, several years to get this, built out as they proposed here. So I think that within that time frame, there's definitely gonna be some more conversations, and maybe at that point, somewhere in that process, ACHD, steps up to the plate and improves the facilities around the site. So that's just my only other thought.
And Mr. Chair.
Commissioner.
I know that ACHD largely takes their like project priority list from our city staff and council. And so even just this discussion on the record that city council will review, obviously, before this project comes to them, I think is a step in the right direction. And perhaps that will help us get to the process of the city prioritizing it on the list for ACHD.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Mooney.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything, and I appreciate the perspective of Commissioner Stead and yourself regarding that and the ACHD nuances. I guess, and the fact that it will be reviewed later is important. But it does boil down to the land use agency, i.e. the city, having the opportunity. And I've just had this discussion numerous times with ACHD commissioners about the cities have to take the lead on often on these things. And if we don't dedicate the land use to a cohesive transportation plan that includes transit, bikes, and peds, then ACHD is going to keep being a road district and not a active transportation organization. And so the city's got to lead on this. And so we need to get smarter about it. That's my 2 cents worth.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Mooney. I think in a lot of ways, we're all sort of saying the same things. And I think to Commissioner Stead's point that this discussion, I think, is a good record for council and design review board to consider that, right, as this project moves forward. Okay, all right. Yeah, so we had a motion to approve, and we had a motion to amend, but we did not get a second. So I think we're back to our original motion to approve.
Mr. Chair,
as written.
I'm sorry to be difficult, but I think it's important enough to make this. I'm going to amend my own motion. And I think I can do that if I'm not mistaken, to make a term of condition of approval, or recommend approval, to your point, going to council, that a dedicated side path be constructed on Trabuco for the length of the applicant's property up to Victory.
Okay, so we have the motioner amended his original motion. I believe Commissioner Moore was the second. Do you agree with the amendment?
Just a little bit of clarification. Can we put some dimensions to that side path?
I was hoping not to, because I want to allow them to have some flexibility a bit, because there are some different recommendations policy-wise on the width of a side path that I think also allow us to take advantage of that buffer space. So I'm specifically not doing the dimension. My purpose is so that it allows the developer some flexibility to make it an even better facility that even gets potentially to, like Commissioner Stead's, and my shared opinion, that hopefully some degree of landscaping could go in. So I was trying to avoid that, if at all possible. If you need it, I'll give you one, but.
No, totally respect that. I agree, and I'll second that.
Okay, Mary, we're good here?
Since the seconder of the motion has also agreed to the amendment, I think we're in the clear.
Okay, great, thanks. All right. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just move to a vote. I think we've had enough discussion, unless anybody's dying to share some more thoughts. Okay. All right, we got a motion to approve PUD 21-62 with the terms and conditions as written in the staff report, with one amendment, and that is to improve a side path, transportation side path along the western side, Trabuco Avenue. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Stead?
Aye.
Schaefer?
Aye.
Squires?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Finfrock? Aye. Danley?
All right.
Mooney?
Aye.
All in favor, motion carries.
Okay. I think with that, we are adjourned.